Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome back to another episode of the Steelers Preview. This is Behind the Steel Curtain editor Dave Schofield. I am on bottom here this evening for those of you watching on YouTube, and we are getting ready for another fantastic show with the triumphant trifecta. We've got Michael Airbud Beck coming in up there, deputy editor.
Airbud Beck.
How's it going, Michael?
Oh, I was doing a whole lot better before that.
I'm sorry. I couldn't help it. I really couldn't help myself. You know, you're going to bust out Airbud as a sports movie. You're going to hear about it for a while. So, that's
going to plague you.
Yes, and of course it is. But other than that, you good after, or how you feeling after your big bad Canada Day celebration yesterday? You doing well?
Yeah, feeling fine. Yesterday, there was really nothing going on. So just a normal day. Worked yesterday, even though it was a holiday. Worked again today. So yeah, nothing's different. Feeling great, to be honest with you.
There you go. And one Bryan Anthony Davis, podcast director at Behind the Steel Curtain. How's it going this evening?
I'm doing great. It's July. 2020 is halfway over. Maybe that's a good thing. I'm feeling fantastic. It's the start of a long weekend for me, and I don't work tomorrow, so I'm just feeling refreshed and ready to go. You called us the triumphant trifecta, but I'm going to help you all out with a name for us. So I'll just put a lid on, and we could be the hat trick.
That's a good one. I like that one. The
hat trick. Hey, and real quick.
No. You can't put a hat on. You can't cover up that glorious hair. You can't do it.
This naturally curly mane of glory. Yeah, we can't do that. Dave, Michael Beck was telling me earlier who his favorite Steeler is. Do you know who that is?
Current or ever?
Current Steeler, yeah.
Current is. I assume it's Chase Claypool.
No, actually, it's Airbud Dupree.
Oh my
goodness! He's never going to live that down.
Not at all.
I didn't. Boy, that wasn't a dad joke there or anything.
Oh, I'm full of dad jokes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I had a bad one today with Jeffrey Benedict. We were talking about breaking down Zach Banner versus Chuks Okorafor, and I said, yeah, Kevin's going to be tackling that question here shortly, and he's like, that's just bad. So, but see, Michael's probably used to hearing these jokes. Before you know it, you'll be making these terrible jokes. So let's get to it, guys. I'm going to be off the podcast airways here next week, as I'm going to be spending some time with my brother. We are going to be getting away and staying away from everybody else. If you know what I mean.
I'm just worried about this whole thing because I have these bad visions of Big Brosco in a banana hammock, and it really terrifies
me. That's the wrong member of my family, and no, it's not me either. But I'm not sharing that one. But yeah, it's going to be. I'll still be supplying the written word to the website, but we've learned that when you go on location, we were really. Michael, you don't understand how good you had it that you were actually able to do the Zach Banner interview, because when we've had on location experiences, not always the best. I tried one this spring. It was okay. I tried to do 2 different shows. One of them was good. The next one, it just died. So
it did go well, except for the shop owner who started waving at me to get out of there near the end. So I was like,
get out of here.
I was kind of loud.
Your time has expired.
Your time has expired. So it's funny because I felt bad that we're like, we should let Michael talk more. I'm like, I don't know if he can. So we're doing good. We're doing good. So, hey, let's dive into some stuff. We're basically talking about a lot of the Steelers news as our topic. So we'll get to those topics at the end of the news. One thing I'm going to bring up, it's funny because Lance Williams shot us this text today, although the news was from yesterday, but that's kind of how it goes sometimes. We found out that former head coach Bill Cowher did have and get over the coronavirus earlier this spring. He did not get tested at the time. He was just tested recently for the antibodies, which said that he had it. So he had it. He's through it. He's over with it. Now everyone's asking his opinions about everything with it. So that's a bit of news. Anything we need to really say about that other than to at least acknowledge that, hey, we're happy that Coach Cowher, that you recovered and everything's well and dandy?
Well, when it comes to Bill Cowher, for me, I rank him up in toughness where everybody else ranks Chuck Norris. So I think Bill Cowher is my Chuck Norris. Monsters look under their bed at night for Bill Cowher. I mean, that's how tough the Chin Man is. And I used to always joke that, could you imagine going to on your first date with one of Cowher's daughters, because he had 3 young ladies in that house with the chin just jutting out? So Bill Cowher, he handled Corona.
Yeah.
That was nothing. That was just like a sneeze to Bill Cowher.
Yeah, he might have got over the coronavirus, but I'm not sure the coronavirus has gotten over Bill Cowher yet. That's what we have to see. So any thoughts on that, Michael?
Jokes, baby. The dad jokes are here. No, I think you hit it all. I think you got it all.
All right. So there's one thing. I ran an article today because, what do you know, I got into a little bit of a discussion on Twitter with one Michael Beck about he wanted to bring up the numbers that one certain quarterback who recently signed with that team up north got for his contract. And I also wanted to point out, he's like, and that was the team that had the least amount of salary cap. I said, but you can take that type of salary going to a team that you're competing for and should very well get the starting job. You don't take that salary in a place like Pittsburgh where you're only there in case their future Hall of Fame quarterback has an injury. There's a difference. You don't sign the same contract. That's not what you're looking for. You can take the kind of contract you did there. But one thing that you did mention is it was very inexpensive to start. But the other thing that I also mentioned, that yes, the Patriots have, I had to say them, had less cap space than the Steelers, but they've also signed every single one of their draft picks. The Steelers have signed none. Last year, the last draft pick was Justin Lane, and he was signed right at the end of March. Everyone was done by the end of March. So the Steelers, here we are, July, 0 draft picks signed. But it's exactly, I said March. I meant May. Wrong end of March. How can they be signed in March when the draft's in April? Man, that's a pretty, that is some Kevin Colbert magic right there.
Yeah, because I believe you were complaining about the draft choice on the 3rd round in April.
I'm thinking of the free agents signed in March. I think it was like May 30th, right around whenever Justin Lane signed. But here we are in July and no draft pick signed. I'm like, oh no, this is a big deal. But they're one of 15 teams that has not signed a single draft pick from this draft. So let's start with Michael. What are your thoughts on not just the Steelers, but everybody? Are they waiting to see how things are going to work out? Or is it just that they haven't been able to get it done because of the team offices and various things and people not being able to come in and things like that? Well, what do you think?
Well, I bet you these deals are done. Like where the picks are, the numbers are kind of already set in stone, right?
Yes.
So I feel like they're basically done. It just boils down to a physical. Like that's got to be the only thing, like a in-person doctor physical. I'm sure it's probably a little bit more for rookies, that more intensive sort of physical stuff that they got to do. I'm sure they've done a ton of it at the combine and whatnot, but that first contract is probably pretty important for them to actually get that done. So I'm sure the deals are done. They just got to get to the facility to actually sign the papers and go through all this, the motions of becoming an official NFL player.
Bad. Your thoughts?
33 years ago on American Top 40, his debut single, Richard Marx I'm talking about, was a number 3 hit called Don't Mean Nothing. And this means nothing, guys. I mean, look, we're going to look back on 2020 and we're going to call 2020 the aberration. This is the weird year. I hope this is the weird year. Let's just put it that way.
I mean, of course, we know this.
But so everything that's going on now, If they were one team and 31 other teams had their guys signed, then you're like, what's going on?
Yeah.
But no, I mean, this is one of those things that just next check, please.
Well, there's several things you have to think about here. One, these are new contracts. Are they having to put in provisions about what happens if there's a reduced season? What happens if there's no season? And things of that sort. That's a lot of different things in these contracts that if I was agents and everything, I'd be trying to lock up that these guys are going to get paid no matter what. And if I was the Steelers, and that's the case, and a lot of these other NFL teams, I see why they're waiting, as they're trying to see how other things are going. So it could be more than just that. Well, the agents and the front office haven't been able to actually get together to work it out. There's a few things with the money's set. It's in how it's distributed and all that other things. So the question is there more to it than just, we haven't got around to it because we can't? Could it be they're just like they've been taking a wait and see mode for so many different things. They've done it with with training camps, with the preseason, which we'll get into, with the regular season. They're waiting and seeing. I think they're kind of getting into the same thing there. So I think we should dive into the topic, because that's basically we have two bits of information to talk about here with tonight's show, with the main one being the preseason cut down 2 games at most. Now, I don't know, because I only got the first half of your guys' show last night. I know Lance had it backwards at first. I don't know if he ever got straightened out. It was week 1 and week 4 that are cut.
Yes.
They are not the ones that are happening. Those are the games that are cut. So no Panthers. First time in 17 years, I think it is. No Panthers. No Tom Brady's first game being at Heinz Field in the preseason. So that's like, I wish they would have got the 2nd and 3rd and kept the 1 and 4, because that would have been nice.
Well,
go ahead. Well, not like he was going to play, but
there's going to be no Tom Brady. Yeah, if you want to see Tom Brady and Gronk in a hoodie, in a sweatshirt, hanging out, joking around on the sidelines, that's what you're going to see.
Bryan, we work for a Steelers website. It's a story. It'd have been a story. I mean, come on.
It's like, hey, did you see how far Gronk spit that sunflower seed? That was epic. He's back.
Even if it was just watching them warm up, and then they get into their street clothes at halftime or something like that, I wouldn't have been shocked if Brady would have played a series. I wouldn't have been. I really wasn't. But that's the games that were cut. They cut 1 and 4. So the Steelers right now are scheduled to host the New Orleans Saints and then travel to the New York Jets, which is funny because they'll be at New York for their last preseason game and then at New York for their first regular season game as things stand now. But the other report is they might even cut it down to 1 or 0 preseason games. Michael, you saw that report earlier. I know you pointed it out last night, I think it was. What's your thoughts on the preseason?
It's big. Like if they don't play any preseason, I think what it kind of boils down to is just kind of the same guys last year will be carried over, just because we can't see those undrafted guys, those kind of fringe free agents that are kind of brought in at the end of the regular season. Those guys aren't even going to have a shot at making this team. So it's going to be really interesting. I think because of it, we're going to see a lot of sloppy football, and like from weeks 1 to 4, probably, especially teams that don't have a lot of experience or a lot of rookie quarterbacks. Those rookies are going to struggle. I almost guarantee you Ryan Fitzpatrick will be the starter in Miami, even if Tua was healthy. It's just not happening. And then when you look at Cincinnati, I'd hate to throw Joe Burrow out there with no practice, no experience. Just kill your rookie quarterback. There's no point in that. It's going to be interesting. I think we're going to see some teams that are, I guess you could project to be near the bottom. I think you're going to see them really fall hard, and the teams closer to the top are probably going to surge and do even better than expected.
Yeah, so you dove right into it, which is what I was going to say to Bryan. How does this and the cut in preseason, and to maybe none at all, how does this affect the Steelers versus their early season opponents or just the NFL in general?
Well, let's take a look at teams like the Steelers the Los Angeles Rams, the Colts, they did not have first-round draft picks. 3 other teams didn't have first-round draft picks as well. But now, if you're the Colts, you have DeForest Buckner. If you are the Rams, you have Jalen Ramsey, and the Steelers, of course, have Minkah Fitzpatrick as their first-round draft pick.
And 14 games under his belt with them.
And 14 games under his belt. Same with Jalen, the same with DeForest Buckner. So when you're looking at something like that, that's your first-round draft pick doesn't have to get acclimated. And everybody still thinks of Chase Claypool as their number 1 pick, which was their top pick in the draft, but he was still a second-round pick. And it doesn't matter what rookie you are. And to Michael's point, it's going to take a lot more for those guys to get acclimated. But if you're a top draft pick, you might be making your debut maybe around week 4, 5, or 6 instead of right away, because you have less time with, especially, you need to get acclimated with Ben Roethlisberger, and Ben needs that time for you in camp. It might hurt a guy like Eric Ebron just for the fact that they need to be a cohesive unit, but they're going to have plenty of time in practice throwing to each other, so that should be fine. But preseason games, you're going to see less veterans. And this year, you're going to see less veterans just for the fact that you don't need to see them. You need to see the guys that need to fight to make the roster. Now that there's 75, getting down to probably 55, because if you're smart, you're going to take advantage of those 2 extra spots. So those 20 guys and let's say 20, 25 guys are fighting it out for those spots. Those are the guys that are going to probably be without hats on game day as well, Dave.
Yeah, and you brought up, which was going to be the next thing we rolled into, is that there's a report that teams might not be bringing as many players to training camp, that it might not be a 90-man roster. It could be an 80 or even 75-man roster. Unofficial, these are reports. Was it Michael? Was it Schefter, Adam Schefter that did that one?
That's correct. Yeah, Schefter retweeted that earlier today.
Yeah, that's a possibility. Nothing official, and that's what they say. It really stinks if you are one of those guys that was an undrafted guy trying to catch on a team, and it's 2020. You are at a major disadvantage. I mean, so I think those players are at a much more of a disadvantage than the 2011 players that didn't, those rookies, Cam Hayward being one of them, that didn't even get into camp until August or anything, not even a playbook. But the drafted guys, I think, have it better than the 2011, but those undrafted guys trying to make the roster, that's a whole different story. Michael, what do you think?
You know who has a disadvantage here? The guy who's writing a 90-part series on everyone on this roster.
I was thinking of that before we went on. I'm like, hopefully it's if you're going to cut 15 guys.
Hopefully it's the last 45 in there.
Yeah.
Kick to the gut. Just kick.
I remember that conversation. Hey, Dave, it's Michael. Holy smokes, I don't have to think of anything for the next 90 days. I'm just going to write about players.
Yeah. Hey, it's, you know what?
They're doing well.
They're
Numero uni.
It's good. And
Ooh,
is he taking a shot?
Ooh, taking a shot.
No,
I love it. Feisty Michael Beck.
The thing is Brian's, it was a countdown. And and he started with 25. So now he's down to, we're getting to the top 10. The top 10's kicking off in Brian's top uniform numbers. Remember that multiple notable players wore. That's the key to that one. So we're going to be changing it up a little bit with those when they're coming out, because we're going to be highlighting them a little bit more, because now is when they really count, when you're getting into the top 10. So, man, now that you guys are taking shots at each other, I like it. I love it. This is what this needs to be a little bit more. But this is going to be interesting with the Steelers. Now, Brian, I've got to correct you, because a lot of people keep saying this. It is not a 55-man roster.
Okay.
It is not a 55-man roster. A lot of people keep saying that. It is not. They have to get down to 53. But it's a 12-man practice squad. So what it is it's instead of, it's not 55 plus 10, it's 53 plus 12. And 4 games, 2 of those guys from the practice squad can get bumped up to the main squad and put back on the practice squad on Monday without being exposed to waivers. That can happen up to 2 times unless they adjust that because of everything going on, because I could see how they could. So that's just to clarify. So they got to get to 53. So those other guys are going to be exposed to the waiver wire in order to be signed on the practice squad to start. So you're talking 65. If the Steelers are only bringing 75 guys to camp, you're only talking about 10 guys that aren't going to be with the team, assuming that all their practice squad comes from their training camp. And if there's no preseason, it's got to. You're talking, you got to have at least 10 of your 12. If you want to take a flyer on a couple guys, that's one thing, but you're really going to have to do that. Either one of you, what do you think they cut it down to 75? Do you think they go 80? How's this going to work?
I think it'd be smart personally. Like, what's the point on a ton of these guys are going to get cut anyway. And they only, I think they only do one round of cuts anymore. So you kind of just like prevent the inevitable, I suppose. And just like, sorry guys, you better luck next year, I guess. Maybe in 2021 they bring more guys to camp just to give them a shot. But what's the point? Why risk it even further?
Yeah, Bryan.
My thing on this is, now with only 10 guys having an opportunity to get cut, there's going to be a lot of movement on that practice squad the day like Labor Day weekend or whenever cut down. Not Labor Day weekend, but whenever cut down day is. So what's going to happen is, I remember in years past, the Steelers would have and I'm talking 5 or 6 years ago, the Steelers would have an entire practice squad with nobody that was in camp. Things would move around that much. And you might see something like that as well, too, with some movement, because there's going to be a lot of guys out there. There will be moves in camp. A guy get cut and another guy brought back in the middle of camp too, because there are guys out there that will be available.
Yeah. I want to bring up one question real quick, because this is something that I've been pondering and wanting to put in an article, but I've really just been thinking about it more. Where Vodka Drinker says, what's been put in place of, say, 10 players test positive on a Friday? See, that they're going to have to come up with a special designation of things, which is going to be super tricky, because you're not supposed to say, like we already know, 2 Steelers tested positive earlier this spring. They recovered. Everything's fine. We don't know who they are. They're not supposed to say who they are, but obviously if they can't play and they need to have I think they need to have a special injury designation so you can have more guys on the roster, but these guys can come back once they're cleared. That's going to be a whole big issue that the NFL is going to have to try to figure out. So that's a different thing. About getting back to the preseason, I'm leaning more towards, even if they cut the whole thing, I'm not going to be torn up about it, because think about it this way. You don't want to see your players get hurt in the preseason anyway. So it stinks for the end of the roster guys. It stinks from guys 45 and beyond, because that's their key. Who it really stinks for if they cut it down to 75 guys? Guy number 76. It really does. Now, like you say, there's a chance that guys might only get a day or two, and if the Steelers don't like what they see, you got a couple bad reps, boom, next guy in. Yeah. That's what they're going to have to do, like Bryan was mentioning. So that I think this plays well for the Steelers, because they don't. It's twofold. One, they generally don't like to play Ben Roethlisberger during the preseason anyway. Yes, he's coming off of injury this year, so that makes it a completely different preseason than years past. So you don't know if they were going to want to play him more to get back into things, but you might not have to worry about it. You might not have to worry about it if there's no preseason games. That's one. Two, this is my question to you guys, because I know my answer. When it comes to no or reduced preseason, who benefits more, the offense or the defense? Let's start with Michael.
I think this defense, I think the defense, is more kind of veteran based, more kind of experience, and even the young guys are kind of more veteran like players, and just the way they carry themselves and the way they play. So I think the offense is probably going to struggle a little bit more. This receiving core is ridiculously young. Is anyone older than 24 outside of that top 4 receivers? I don't think so. I think Juju's 23. I think Deontay's also 23. Claypool 21, 22, and then Switzer's not in the top 4 though.
And he's still pretty young.
Yeah, I mean, he's still on a quote unquote rookie deal. So
right, so they're super young. They didn't have Ben a year ago, and Deontay basically went a year without Ben. So that's 2 of their top 4 receivers. I haven't had a lot of experience with them. James Washington didn't play all that much as a rookie. He was kind of in that like almost Deion Kane type role back in 2018. So. He got more stats than that, but he didn't play.
I think he got more snaps. He just didn't get as many targets, if you know what I mean.
Exactly. So they just don't have that kind of repertoire with one another. So I think this offense is probably going to struggle a little bit out of the gate until Ben kind of gets comfortable with some people. Who knows? Maybe Juju's numbers take off because they know one another. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. Maybe Ryan Switzer's the team's leading receiver after week 4, and boy, Steelers fans would love that. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
25-year-old Ryan Switzer, by the way.
So Bryan, clarify that. Who benefits more with no preseason? The offense, not just Steelers in general, the offense or the defense?
The defense.
Yes.
An offense. Every offense has changes. Every roster has changes in the landscape of 2020 or the last 10, 15 years because of free agency. There are so many new players brought in. Look at a team like Tampa. Tampa needs to, I don't care if you have Brady and Gronk, you still have to have a cohesive unit. Ben Roethlisberger in Pittsburgh needs reps because he's back. Now, is it the practice reps that he's going to be getting? How many, even if it wasn't COVID, how many reps would have he been getting anyways? Because the Steelers don't play him that much in preseason, which I always complain about. I always think they should play him a little bit more, but then you run that risk. Yeah. So, the offense really has to get on the same page more than a defense. A defense does not have to be on the same page as quickly.
Yeah, and it's funny because you mentioned with Ben Roethlisberger. On a side little note, what if a report would have come out that Ben actually hurt his elbow in his one preseason game, and he just finished it off in week 2? How would we feel about seeing Ben in preseason in the future? You know what I mean? It all has to come from perspective. Personally, I think the advantage is to the defense as long as they've got their communication down. You don't have to make it a complex defense. You could even make it more simple as long as your communication's good. And I think that's where the advantage lies. I also think that is the strength of the 2020 Pittsburgh Steelers. So once again, it plays in their favor if there's with the reduced or no preseason, because they're not playing, they're not banking on their rookies, and their strength is their defense is one other thing. I wanted to bring up something else from the live chat. This is from actually one of the contributors of Behind the Steel Curtain. I think he has an article that should be out tomorrow. But except I can never say Maddie's name right. Help me with the last name.
Peverell.
Is it Peverell or Peverell? Michael, I'll go with what you said. We'll Canadize it, saying it's Australian. So big question for me is, how will our O-line work with no preseason, especially with Filer confirmed at guard? Will Tomlin and company need to move him back to right tackle and put Wisniewski at left guard? The problem is not Filer at guard. The problem is not Filer at guard when it comes to familiarity. The question is the other spots. And that's what the Steelers are banking on. They're banking on going with 2 guys that have both been with the Steelers 2 years over the veteran who's been in the NFL a long time but has not played with the Steelers. That's what they're going to start. They could find out that the veteran that's been here much longer pays off more. Bryan, agreed?
Yeah, I agree. And I'm really not that concerned about 2 guys that have been with the team for 3 years vying for a starting spot because they've been here. The fact that they have been in the organization, and like Zach Banner said the other day in our interview, he said, yeah, this is not really news to us. This is news to you guys. We knew this was going to happen. I'm just surprised that Coach T put it out there. I mean, so they have been preparing for this for a long time. And, you know, they have the playbooks. They know the system. They've been in the system. I don't worry about that much either. This is a team that we pretty much knew who they were, and there's not much change to the starting 22. There's not much change whatsoever. So for teams that don't have a lot of turnover as far as the starting 22, you're looking at a team better equipped to handle less preseason games.
You know what? I think at that tackle spot as well, I am very confident, especially in Zach Banner. You got to remember, he was a 4th-round pick still. He had that talent. He was an All-American. His problem was he just kept gaining weight. And the Colts were like, listen, you got to get this under control. He couldn't. He got cut. He got up to 420 pounds, like he told us, on the Browns. So he got cut again. And then he ends up on the Steelers, and he's in the best shape, I'd say, of his life. We see the pictures. He's looking pretty good. I think he's someone that could step in and really raise some eyebrows. Who knows if it extends past 2020? Because he might be a beast. That's what we got to look out for.
Yeah, and here's another thing, because, of course, Lance is like, you got to start Wiz. Do you realize the last season Stefan Wisniewski started 16 games was in Jacksonville in 2015? That's not been what he's been called to do later in his career. He did start 11 games for Philly in 2017, but other than that, it's been single-digit starts. He only had 2 regular season starts last year in Kansas City before the playoffs. So honestly, I think with the reduced salary and everything, I think the Steelers, and his age, the Steelers were bringing him in to not play every snap in 16 games, that they want him to be there, that they know they have a guy that can slide in no matter what, and that can just get it anywhere on the inside. Now, if he ends up being your best guy, go with him. You know, and it might be that he's ready before the other guys. I think they have so many options that I'm not super worried about the offensive line when it as much as it comes there, because, and it's funny because that's really the only change in the offense. So
it is, Dave. But here's the thing about it. And I'm reading Lance's comments in here about Banner and Shooks and Filer. Remember 2 years ago when we found out Filer was going to be in there more? He was taken over from Marcus Gilbert because Gilbert was hurt.
We're like, well, why are we playing a guard at tackle? It's what everyone was saying.
And all this worry about Filer. And now you put a 2nd-round tender on him, and Filer's untouchable. You can't lose Filer. And now, I mean, if you said something about Filer now, it's like, no. Filer's got to be there. You know, that's the thing. You know, they move in guys all the time that are understudies, then come in to that starting role and do very well. And Matt Filer was definitely one of them. So why can't it happen again?
Oh, exactly. I mean, it's frankly, Michael, you played offensive line in college.
I did.
I still don't know how that's possible.
Yeah. How big of a deal do you think it is to move to a different position on the offensive line?
I'll start by saying I'll share a picture of big fat Mikey, but after the show. But to be honest with you, when I played at Simon Fraser, I played every single spot along that offense line. I played a snap between left and right tackle. It just kind of depended on the situation. And for some, I played center, so I called the O-line calls. I didn't know what everyone else was doing, depending on the front. So you know what? I think when it comes to offensive linemen, it's easier than you'd think. What it comes down to, if someone's more comfortable kicking with their right leg and posting with their left, or vice versa, then you might be more inclined to leave them on one side or the other. So I would say, we saw videos of Chooks today on Instagram, I believe, him talking about his versatility, kick-stepping left, kick-stepping right. He can do it both. He can play both on both sides of the ball. So I think that's something the Steelers kind of expect from their O-linemen, except for maybe a guy like David DeCastro. He's not getting moved. So I think unless you're locked in a spot, be prepared to move around.
Yeah, I mean, I actually coached in a system when I was coaching high school football that we didn't have a right guard and a right tackle and a left guard and a left tackle. We had a strong guard and a strong tackle and a weak guard and a weak tackle. We kept the same tackle next to the tight end and flipped them depending on the formation. So that it's just kind of how it was. Because and I mean, that obviously that's not the NFL, but it was nothing to move offensive linemen around at that level. That's why I asked you about it from the college level. A lot of people that haven't played the position don't understand that. Yes, there are different things. Like, it's the responsibilities you have to do at each one. Are they going to ask Father to pull? That's the biggest thing. How is he, if he's going to be pulling, where does he need to play? But that's kind of just the Castro's thing at guard. The Steelers pull the center a lot because they have one that they can. So that's we've kind of got off on the offensive line, but you're talking to two former linemen. So it's kind of what we have to do.
Whoa. What do you mean two? What about my career?
2 and an 8. 2 and
You
an 8.
said
The American Outfitter Eagles.
No, you said you were a nose tackle. You didn't say
I was a
anything about
nose tackle,
offensive
but I
line.
was also a messenger guard, a la Chuck Knoll for the American Outfitter Eagles in the Richland Geistown Pee Wee Football League in 1983 and 84 at age 11 and 12. And I was mediocre at best, but I was one. So don't, just because you guys have better experience than I do, hey, there's a lot of knowledge in that noodle.
There you go. Well, I think we're kind of diving into a few of these topics that I'm just ignoring you, Brian. That I think we ultimately should ask this final question, and that is, we're bringing up areas of concern. So the biggest areas of concern with the Steelers, if they're with a limited or possibly no preseason, we've talked about the offensive line, because you're talking about, a lot of people are chalking that up as two different positions. Let's call it 1.5, because you're with Filer. So that's a concern. Eric Ebron, which one of you mentioned Ebron? I can't remember.
I did, but I'm not that concerned, but he's new.
Well, and the thing is, he doesn't have to be your first tight end right off the bat either, because you still have Vance McDonald as long as he's healthy. So that's it. Let's stick to offense first. What else do you think would be affected the most with no preseason? And of course, we already mentioned the return of one Benjamin Todd Roethlisberger. So you can even go in depth in that, or if you think there's something else. Brian, you look like you're ready to pounce on this.
You know what? The one guy that we didn't mention that is also probably going to be a starter and new to the offense is Derek Watt, but I'm not worried about Watt, and I'm not worried about Ebron. Yeah. I'm not worried about either of these guys, because they've already, that playbook's been FedExed to them a long time ago, and it's just getting on the same page. Just like Watt has to get on the same page with his offensive line and with his stable of running backs as well. And also with his quarterback, because he can catch the ball out of the backfield. So, there's some things to look at as far as, the offense and things they've got to work on. But I think the whole gist of this entire show is that the Steelers might have less to have to hammer out than other teams going into the season. Their season hinges on health and getting guys back into the fold and getting some guys acclimated, but not too many.
Michael, offense, other than offensive line, biggest concern with limited preseason?
I would say it's kind of that relationship with Big Ben, the guys that haven't run routes with them. That's kind of what it's going to boil down to, that timing. Those out routes, I wouldn't be throwing them. I feel like those are going to be balls that end up being intercepted because they're just, that timing isn't there. I feel like the route tree is going to be simple, and I'm a little more hesitant to be throwing some of the routes on the route tree just because of that lack of experience.
Before we dive into the defense, we have $5 into the tip jar from Dave Shipley, who says biggest concern is the salary cap. Not sure what you're talking about with 2020, because the Steelers are fine. They have enough to sign their rookies. They have enough to roll into the season with. If that salary cap is dealing with 2021, let's actually have a 2020 season first and see what the Steelers can do before that's our biggest concern. Any thoughts from you guys?
Cap space is a myth. You can work your way around it in multiple ways.
Bad.
You know what? Remember, Omar Khan is a genius, and no matter what's thrown his way, they figure things out.
Yeah. I don't call the salary cap a myth. There's a lot you can do with it. It's just, there's a lot you can do, but the Steelers have almost maxed out everything they can with it. I just think it might be that there's not going to be anyone else signed before this season. Defense. Who, what, where, how is your biggest concern with the defense if there's no preseason? We'll start with Michael.
I would say the depth at safety and middle linebacker. Lance and I kind of got in that a little bit last night. It's just thin. It's really thin. If there's one injury, you're an injury away from your starting linebackers and possibly every down guys being Ulysses Gilbert and Vince Williams if Devin Bush gets hurt. And I think if that's the case, you're going to see a lot of teams start just picking over the middle crosser routes, and that could be an issue. Minka Fitzpatrick goes down, then Jordan Dangerfield, is he the next man up, or is it Marcus Allen? Where do we even go there? And that's another area of concern for me. There's things missing, and they got to figure it out.
Bad.
I agree with Michael and Lance on that when they were talking about holes and what to worry about. I'm a little.
But remember, this isn't holes. This is
holes,
with
limited
preseason.
Yeah, limited preseason and concerns and getting those guys worked out. I want to see the outside linebackers, especially Skipper, Highsmith, and Adeni. I need them to get work, and I really, because remember, I know we're talking about 2020, but Air Bud's probably not going to be there in 2021. And these guys,
Michael Beck's going to the Steelers. Oh, sorry,
living the dream.
Hey, he's got more pedigree than me, so yeah.
This is it. The thing that you miss from the preseason, the defense, is having a better understanding of your depth. Exactly what you guys are saying is the depth at inside linebacker a concern or not? Is the depth at safety a concern or not? You would have better answers from the preseason, watching those other guys get playing time to see what else they have. Specifically more at inside linebacker, I think you would know, getting more playing time from Ulysses Gilbert the third would have helped a lot to see those kind of things. But when it comes to actually getting out on the field, if all these guys are healthy, then that's not going to be the biggest issue in the world. I think the biggest issue is with a limited preseason is to get down the communication, to make sure there's no breakdowns on the defense, to make sure everyone's communicating well, to not give up a big play based on that. And other than that, I think they're good to go. I think the defense, the only player you lost for last year, other than, you released Mark Barron because you wanted to have Devin Bush play more, is Javon Hargrave. And you're going to have the veteran Alualu starting off there. Their defense is in pretty good shape if there's no preseason. But that's my opinion. Anything else about this before we get them moving, guys?
Special teams, or are we missing anything there?
Honestly, if they I think that if the Steelers cut down where they're not having 90 guys in camp, where they're told to have less, I don't think you bring an extra long snapper. I don't think you carry an extra punter. I think you stay with those three. I think if they cut down the preseason rosters, Jordan Berry should breathe a sigh of relief, because it's going to be less stress on him, because I just don't see how they can carry those other players.
Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like they should have already addressed that and possibly brought in some veteran competition. It's not going to happen. Jordan Berry, you got yourself another year, bud. Congrats.
Yeah. Brian, anything else?
No, I'm feeling like special teams is in pretty good shape. And even Jordan Berry, I'm not that concerned about Jordan Berry the way he started off the season last year. And his descent was maybe in the last quarter of the season.
That it was the last quarter of the season. He was tied for the team lead in lost fumbles. when that's your punter, and the only reason that is because the Steelers had three different quarterbacks. So, guys, you ready to roll into trivia?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know what? I haven't gone first for a while, so I'm going to go first. I did that article today about the Steelers not signing any of their draft picks, and they are not in the worst case, especially since they only had 6 draft picks. I saw that the Minnesota Vikings have not signed any of their 15 draft picks they had in 2020.
15.
Did you realize they had 15 draft picks?
They kept making trades.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
Here's the question. When's the last time the Steelers had 15 picks or made 15 picks in the NFL draft?
Probably a time when there was 15 rounds.
No, I could probably tell you this.
Oh, I'll never be able to guess.
I had a feeling you might have a decent guess there, Brian. So maybe we should have Michael. Michael, you want to take a shot first?
Oh, goodness. I feel like it probably hasn't been in my lifetime, or at least in my fanhood. So before 2003, I guess, is when I could really understand what was going on. My guess, I'll throw something out there. Let's say 97. Just a random year.
Okay. All right, Brian, what do we got?
This is why I'm going to go with 1989, and I might be wrong, but they had 2 number 1 draft picks in 1989. Tom Ricketts and Tim Worley because of the Mike Merriweather trade. And that was, they still had 12 draft picks back then.
89. I didn't get 89 an actual number right now because it wasn't as high. In 1992, 1983, and 1982, they had as many as 14 draft picks. But to get to 15 draft picks, Vodka Drinker had it in the live chat. It was the 1980 draft where the Steelers in the first round selected Brian?
Mark Malone.
Mark Malone. And there were 2 other notable Steelers drafted in back-to-back picks in that draft in the 5th round and 6th round. Great locker room guys.
Yep. Tunch and Wolf.
Tunch and Wolf were both
buddies
drafted in 1980s. And, because they do their show in the locker room.
Now it's in the living room.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
I haven't listened in a while.
I haven't listened either. What colleges were they from?
Do you know this? I can tell you
Yeah.
this, Michael, unless you wanted to say.
I don't know. I'm not
Wolf
sure
was
the colleges.
from Syracuse and Tunch was from Idaho
Germany.
State.
No, think of
Oh,
Larry
Idaho State.
Bird.
Indiana State?
Indiana State.
Was it Indiana State? I knew it was an I state.
Not a lot of NFL players from Indiana State.
Yeah. So I was close there. But if you go back to the merger, to the 1970 merger, the Steelers' most draft picks they made was 2 different years. In 76 and 71, they drafted 22 players.
Good
in those 2
gravy.
years.
Just sounds exhausting. That's a lot of work for a GM.
Yes.
You're
So,
just picking dudes. You're like, I like this guy's name.
yeah.
Let's go.
Well, then you look at like MLB that does 50 rounds. All you got to do is get your name out there and you can get drafted with.
Yeah, one guy in MLB was like picked like number 50 something just because it was a favor to one of his buddies, one of Tommy Lasorda's buddies back in Philly, and it was Mike Piazza. It was just drafted as a favor because he knew his Italian grandfather or Italian dad or something like that, and the rest was history.
There you go. All right, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. We're going to go age or beauty on this one. Who's going next?
Oh, that's both right here. So I guess I'm next.
No, you don't have age on it. Brian's got the age.
Oh, I thought you meant youthfulness.
Meaning like the old guy.
Okay, sure.
We'll go with Michael next since he's quite ballsy tonight with his comment.
Mr. 8 p.m.'s really cocky, isn't he?
Yeah. Let's hear it, Air Bud.
Oh, okay. Easy there. When you hear this question, you'll be I don't know about nicer because this is kind of mean. Yesterday was Canada Day, and for some reason, some of the live chat wasn't too happy that we're talking about Canada. So I'm going to continue the Canada talk because I'm petty like that. There are currently 19 NFL players born in Canada. I'm just curious how many of you guys, how many of those guys that you can name? 19 currently.
Well,
and you can take the layup.
No, I'm not going to take the layup. I just
cool?
can't pronounce his name. Kansas City Chiefs, Laverne Tardif.
Laurent Duvernay-Tardif. Yeah,
Okay.
there's one. The guard from the Chiefs.
A doctor also, isn't he?
That is true. He is, yeah. I'm sure he'll probably not play a whole lot this year. That's going to be a bit of an issue, I would say.
Why?
Just working in a hospital, I feel like that could be a bit of concern with COVID and whatnot. And I'm not quite too sure what his background exactly is, but that could be a bit of an issue. I'm sure it's been a busy offseason, to say the least. Matt
Canada. Okay, I love that.
Okay. I mean, were you counting Claypool?
Yeah, of course. Okay. Yeah.
So we've got a couple of them. Let's see how many kickers and punters you want to name there, Brian.
There's only one kicker.
Really? Because when you ran your former Steelers, Claypool was the only non-kicker.
Yeah, that's true.
So, from Canada. Let's see. You know what? I don't.
Are there any skill guys from Canada?
They're mostly actually
Like big names.
Big names.
Any
you know what?
Pro
Someone from the
Bowlers?
Patriots. There, I think there is a Pro Bowler or two in here. Actually, there is a Pro Bowl long snapper. I don't know if you'll get that. I'll throw out the team. Even Dallas. He's played almost 10 years now. All right, I'll throw you that one because kind of hard. LP Ladossier. I don't know if that rings any bells, but
JC Hassenauer.
A certain Patriots former first-round pick is born in Toronto. Not too long ago.
I would have to care about who.
It's in the live chat. There's a few in the live chat.
I wasn't cheating.
Luke Wilson. Yeah, Luke Wilson. And I know that's because of Hard Knocks. Matty Peverell, thanks. Wow. This is a great question. Robin Scherbatsky?
Yeah, I don't know if she actually played in the NFL.
Robin Scherbatsky.
Alan Thicke.
Okay, so we got Chase Claypool.
He's the only.
Wait a second. The last year's first round pick.
There you go.
Patriots. Bryan Guy and Keel.
And Keel.
Yeah.
And Keel Harry?
Keel Harry. Yes, he's from Toronto.
Wow. That's okay.
There's another one. So I think right now we are at 4 of the 19.
Okay.
You guys want any more goes here? Or should I rattle them off?
Anything that would have been the only name I would have known out of all of these, most likely.
I can rattle through them. It's funny because NFL Canada always tweets about these guys, so I see these names a lot, but I don't know if you follow NFL Canada. We got
Who
Eli.
Doesn't?
Oh yeah,
Come on.
Follow on Twitter. What are you talking about?
In fact, we might trade you to NFL Canada.
If that Canadian dollar's not doing so, I don't know if I'd leave.
LP.
It's close.
Okay. There you go. I can't even say it. So, sorry, that was the first I've brought anything up. Okay.
Thanks, Mean Joe, in the comments there. Getting the 2 D tackles. One formerly from Dallas, Christian Covington. Actually played in high school. Tyrone Crawford as well. Going alphabetical order for the rest of them here. We got Eli Anku, nose tackle for the Jags. Anthony Auclair, Tampa Bay tight end. Tavon Campbell, cornerback on the Chargers. Covington and Crawford already mentioned there. Neville Gallimore, I believe, is a 3rd-round pick this year to Dallas. Lirim Haralaju, brutal last name. He is the kicker on the Chargers. Rising John, practice squad, Giants, former teammate of mine. Brett Jones on the Vikings, TJ Jones of the Giants, Carter O'Donnell on the Colts, Austin Patzer on the Titans, Nathan Shepard on the Jets, another former teammate, and Brett Urban on the Titans, former Baltimore Raven. Thought you would have got that one.
Which one?
Brett Urban.
Brett Urban.
Well, you know, Dave, Seattle has 2 losses.
Yes, that's very true. That Seattle definitely does have two losses. So, yeah, it's one of those things that if you're not Canadian, you don't pay attention if they're Canadian.
Yeah. No, those guys get a lot of coverage and not a whole lot of playing time.
But I mean, we do, but we do, we have a large international following here behind the steel curtain. So there are
tons of Aussie punters, I think.
Tons of Aussie punters, and we have the Christian Scotland Williamson from across the pond, and things of that sort. Bad. You've got to have.
We had a very famous Canadian punter,
Mitch Berger.
I'm not talking Mitch Berger.
Is this some sort of Air Bud joke? I don't know where we're going.
No, not at all. Come on, he collected Pez dispensers. He was on the Fan. He was a commentator for the Fan, a very famous Steeler for a long time. Josh Miller.
He was Canadian?
Josh Miller's Canadian.
I didn't even know that. It wasn't in the article. Sorry, Josh.
You sure? I don't know about that. We'll see. All right, Beck, give us your shirt. We're running out of time.
All right, this one's actually a pretty easy one. So, of all the Pittsburgh Steelers defensive players of the year, 2 of them came from the same college. Who are they?
You said of defensive players of the year.
Actually, I'm wrong about Josh Miller. I thought he was Canadian. Unless you count New York.
Oh, he's from
so
Southeastern Canada.
Yeah. All right, I screwed up on that one.
Back to the question.
So yeah, defensive players of the year from one college, Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay, let's see. Well, back in the 70s, I'm trying to remember who everyone played for. Because
I wonder. I feel like it's Wisconsin. No, TJ wasn't defense player of the year. I'm losing it. Should have been.
Remember, that was my trivia the one time. The only 2 players that played significant time for the Steelers drafted out of Wisconsin was Mike Webster and
that's right.
And TJ Watt. So I'm thinking, I'm trying to think because you've got. You got, was there more than one USC with Troy Polamalu? I don't think there was more than one with James Harrison. So you're probably talking, let's see, why can I not remember where Mel Blount went to college? Because he was defensive player of the year, was he not? Because the Steelers had a stretch where they had 3 consecutive defensive players of the year, and there were 3 different players back in the 70s. So let's go Penn State.
Oh, goodness gracious.
It rhymes. And you hit the player.
Oh,
how about Kent State?
What's Kent State?
That's right, because Harrison was Kent State.
And so was Jack Lambert.
Yeah, and so was Lambert. How did I not get that one? Come on.
Just like you didn't know the other Mel Blount was from Southern University, and Joe Green had 2 of them.
And he was from North Texas State.
Yep. Correct. So I thought that was going to be a layup for you guys. Wow, I actually got you. I feel good.
So I thought maybe it went back from before the 70s that they had one sprinkled in there that I should have realized with Harrison that it was Kent State. Oh, that makes
Lambert in 76, Debo in 08.
Yeah.
So, well, that's interesting because I've actually looked up all the Steelers, defensive players of the year since the merger. That's the only reason why I was trying to remember. But that was a very, very nice question there, Bryan. Before we sit it out here, anything else you guys want to throw out there for the good of the order?
Do we want to tease the possibility of this weekend?
It sounds like it's confirmed to me. So we even talked about it yesterday. So I think if you want to share the news this time, Bad, you can go for it.
Well, we will have another current Steeler on the roster on the defense. We are going to be talking to Jordan Dangerfield on Saturday.
Right now, it sounds like noon. Keep your eye on our little Twitterverse there. We'll figure out the time and get it out to you as soon as we know for sure.
Now Jordan Dangerfield, he went to college. He in the Free State. So Bad. His alma mater is
Kansas. I don't know.
In our state.
Oh, not the University of Maryland. Towson.
Towson.
You went to Towson?
Yes.
I was just on that campus. It's a beautiful campus.
Yes. So
there you go.
No one cares. So here we go. So this is what's coming. Lance should be on tomorrow night with I Said It. Then you're on Saturday. Is Tony still going to go if you guys do the show, or are you just going to wait and see how it goes?
We are not going to have brunch with Tony. Tony's going. I figured Tony could enjoy his Independence Day, and we would just go ahead and run with Jordan in that time slot. And Tony, we gave Tony an opportunity to come and talk to Jordan, but he said, "No, I want you guys to go ahead and take care of it," and he's just going to listen. So
So you two will be handling that. We will have our regular. We'll still have shows every day. Who's on those shows might be a little bit different this week. Also, make sure you are checking out BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, your one-stop shop for all things Pittsburgh Steelers. And in the words of Lance Williams, make sure you tune in, tell a friend, and subscribe. We'll see you all next time.